Welcome to Short Takes on Strategy. We're your hosts for this quick immersion into some key business ideas.
That's right. And today we're diving into Chapter 10 of Ketchen and Short's Mastering Strategic Management, the fourth edition.
And something just jumped right out. Did you see the statistic? U.S. CEOs in 2022 making 344 times the typical worker.
Wow. 344 times.
Yeah. And back in 1982, it was only 42 to 1.
Huge jump.
Huge. And then you compare it to somewhere like Japan, maybe 16 to 1. Well, let's unpack this.
Yeah, that difference is pretty striking, isn't it? And it throws a spotlight right onto corporate governance.
Exactly. Which is our focus for this short take.
We're really zooming in on, the board of directors, their role, and this whole hot topic of CEO pay.
Right. Chapter 10 does cover other stuff too, like ethics, social responsibility, decision-making biases.
Important topics.
Definitely. But for this deep dive, we're sticking to governance and, well, the money.
And for you listening, understanding this stuff, it really gives you a window into how organizations actually tick.
Yeah, whether you're prepping for a meeting or just kind of curious about what drives decisions at the top.
It provides context, right? Valuable context.
Absolutely. It helps make sense of the corporate world. Hold on a second. Is that a cat fighting a snake outside?
Seriously?
Yeah, in the front yard. Looks like the cat's winning. Okay. Where were we?
Corporate governance. The roadmap.
Right. Okay, refocused. So roadmap for this short takes on strategy, what the board does, the whole CEO pay controversy, and this thing called CEO duality.
Okay, let's start with the board. That cat-snake fight. Kind of a weird analogy for corporate power struggles, maybe.
Maybe. So the board, the basic job is oversight.
Right.
Watching over things.
Exactly. The chapter says they oversee organizational activities. But it's more than just watching. They hire the CEO.
Guide them, advise them.
And sometimes, fire them. Like you mentioned, Travis Kalanick at Uber or John Surma at U.S. Steel.
That you're fired moment, but from the board. It shows where the ultimate accountability lies.
It does. And the whole framework for this, the processes, the policies, the laws, that's corporate governance.
Trying to make sure everyone's accountable and avoiding conflicts of interest.
Precisely. It's about tackling that classic principal-agent problem, aligning the interests of the owners, the principals, with the managers, the agents.
Makes sense. So what does an effective board actually do day to day or meeting to meeting?
Well, they're approving financial objectives, advising on strategy, making sure the company stays on the right side of the law, and importantly, representing stakeholders. Remember that big statement in 2019?
All those CEOs, 181 of them.
That's the one. Acknowledging they need to think beyond just shareholders, employees, customers, communities, everyone.
That wider view seems crucial now. Okay, so who sits on these boards? The chapter mentions insiders and outsiders.
Right. Insiders have that deep, intimate knowledge of the company. They work there.
They know the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. But outsiders bring a fresh perspective. They're not employees, so they could be potentially more objective.
And big investors, like outsiders, don't they? Institutional investors.
They often do, yeah. They like seeing independent voices, like that situation at ExxonMobil with Engine One.
Oh, the activist firm.
Yeah, they pushed for new directors and got backing from big players like the California Teachers Retirement System. Shows their clout.
Okay, so the board oversees things. Now, let's get into the really thorny issue, CEO pay.
Contentious is the word the chapter uses. And yeah, going back to that 344 to 1 ratio.
It's easy to see why it's controversial. It feels like this constant tension. You need a top talent.
The Picasso analogy, right?
Yeah.
Paying for a lifetime of expertise, not just the minutes it takes to sketch.
Exactly. You need to pay competitively for these rare skills.
And the argument is that these leaders carry immense responsibility. Their decisions impact thousands, maybe millions of people, billions in value. Think Steve Jobs at Apple.
Okay, fair point on the responsibility. But the other side argues the pay is just detached from reality now.
But it's not linked strongly enough to actual performance.
Right. The chapter mentions Jeffrey Immelt at GE. Big paydays, while the company's value, didn't do so great.
And that Fat Cat Wednesday thing in the UK.
Yeah.
Where top execs earn the average yearly salary in just a few days.
That really highlights the sheer scale of the difference, doesn't it?
It does. And the data showing that ratio just exploding over decades. It's not a gentle slope, it's a cliff.
So how is this pay even structured? It's not just salary, is it?
No, usually it's a mix. There's a guaranteed salary, sure.
Yeah.
then often a cash bonus.
Like the Comcast example, tied to hitting short-term goals. Quarterly numbers.
Exactly. And then the big one often is stock options, which are supposed to link pay to long-term value for shareholders.
They're supposed to. And then there are the perks.
Ah, yes, the perks. Sometimes they draw a lot of fire, like that John Thane Office Reno story.
Yeah, millions on an office. It just feeds the perception that it's excessive. This is where I start getting agitated. Are these pay levels just completely out of whack? Seriously. You see CEOs getting massive packages even when the company tanks. That ratio climbing and climbing, it feels fundamentally broken.
Okay, I hear the frustration, but let's just hold on that market perspective for a second. Isn't it possible that this reflects the market price for a very, very specific and scarce skill set?
Scarce maybe, but 344 times scarcer than the average worker. I don't buy it. Especially when you factor in CEO duality.
Okay, so the CEO also being the chairman of the board.
Yes. Doesn't that just gut the whole oversight idea? The board is supposed to police the CEO, including pay. If the CEO is the police chief, who's watching the chief?
That's the core concern, the potential conflict of interest.
It feels like a massive conflict. Look at WeWork. Adam Neumann was CEO and chairman. Did the board effectively oversee him? It doesn't look like it.
That's certainly a case study people point to.
And Elon Musk at Tesla initially held both roles, too. It just seems like it sets the stage for unchecked power and, yes, potentially crazy pay packets.
Well, the counter-argument, which the chapter touches on, is efficiency. One person, clear leadership, faster decisions.
Faster decisions to pay themselves more.
Well, not necessarily. And many companies with duality have a lead independent director, specifically to counterbalance that power, especially on things like pay and evaluation.
A lead director. Is that really enough when the chair is the CEO?
I just find this whole justification for the current state of pay, especially with duality weakening oversight, it's infuriating. It feels rigged. I actually need a minute. This is too much.
Okay. Take a second.
Pause, implied by silence, then returns.
Okay. Okay, I'm back.
Okay. It is complex. There are arguments on the other side about market rates and efficiency. The chapter calls it a fierce debate for a reason, I guess.
And our little back and forth just showed that, didn't it? It highlights the real tensions here.
Yeah, fair enough.
And CEO duality really is a perfect example of those tensions, potential for speed and unified vision.
Versus the risk of weakened oversight, maybe conflicts of interest, like the WeWork example keeps bringing up.
Right. And the Tesla example, where Musk eventually split the roles, maybe shows thinking is evolving on that.
Possibly. It suggests a growing awareness, at least in some high-profile cases, that independent board leadership is critical.
So, wrapping up this short takes on strategy, we've looked at the board's crucial oversight role.
Dived into that very charged debate around CEO pay the justifications versus the criticisms.
And we tackled CEO duality, the pros and cons of combining those top roles.
Which brings us to a question for you, the listener, to think about. After hearing all this, what do you think is the best way forward?
Yeah, how do we ensure strong leadership and fair pay? Are there governance models or pay structures that seem, I don't know, more promising or more problematic?
It's about that balance, isn't it? Incentivizing talent while ensuring accountability to everyone the company impacts.
Definitely food for thought. And hey, if this has got you thinking, Chapter 10 in Mastering Strategic Management has more.
Yeah, the parts on ethics, social responsibility, those decision-making biases, they all connect back to this. It's all intertwined. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And corporate governance itself, it's not static. It keeps evolving as business changes, as stakeholder expectations change. The search for what works best, that's ongoing.